Kerry Nolden and Phil Reed have paired up as teammates for many seasons. Though their team moniker may have changed, be it Aperture, Formula Mini, or their current banner, Team AOR Orange, season after season, the familiar duo is always in the hunt for a team championship. Lately, Team AOR Orange has been exceptionally hot and now finds itself positioned just 30 points back of the preseason favorite and defending team champion, SimRacing, whose driver roster of Renee Osterkamp and Patrick Kessler has 3 individual driver championships between them. Will Nolden and Reed continue to close the gap to the leaders, or will Osterkamp and Kessler, as champions often do, rise to the occasion and put down the challenge to their crown? Find out now as Apex Online Racing comes to Zandvoort for round 9 of the Formula Renault 2.0 Season 11 Championship. And all the action from this doubleheader event can be seen live as it happens right here on the Global Sim Racing channel. From the home of Thumbelina, the Inchworm, and the Ugly Duckling, hello and welcome to another GSRC broadcast. Joe Peak joins yours truly, Bill Soups on, to bring you our bird's eye view. John Ambrose has director duties armed with cameras locked and loaded by Dougie Beard. Joe, iRacers certainly know this place well, but because Formula One stopped coming here over 30 years ago, the casual race fan, well, they might be unfamiliar with Zandvoort. Tell our viewers about today's racetrack.
Yeah, this is definitely a place that is probably more recognizable to the old school F1 fans. But this isn't the layout that they used to race back in those days. In the 90s and early 2000s, it was altered a couple times and wound up looking like what you see here. What was a circuit composed mostly of fast manual sweepers has been truncated to a 13-turn, 2.5-mile technical track. Thankfully, they did manage to retain some of the nature of the old track with some distinct banking, including in some of the newer corners that they made. But considering how few heavy braking zones there are following long straights, passing comes at a premium. This Dutch track is going to take some Verstappen-esque moves if you want to get by someone who is close to you on pace. If not, I honestly think that many drivers will be left having to play the patience game and wait for a mistake from their opponents, which won't be uncommon if we're honest. There's a number of tricky corners that'll catch out even very good drivers. Watch for turns like Hugenholtz, Marlborough, and Hans Urs to cause unforced errors. Really, though, the best way to feel how tough it is to nail a lap around here, why don't we hop on board the GSRC Renault for a lap guide?
We're in the GSRC Formula Renault 2.0, so let's do a lap around Zandvoort. Tarzan is definitely going to be your best opportunity for a pass with the high speeds into heavy braking. Watch out on entry because the banking seems to like to lock the inside front. From out of there, keep it to the left to line up Gerlach, which is surprisingly tough to be accurate with due to the blind crest. You've got no time before Hugenholtz though, and this is going to be a critical corner to get your exit right, so try not to get on the power too early. As you weave uphill through Slotemacher and turn 5, you won't be lifting, so any hesitation will make it easy for the car behind to close in on you. But don't expect out-braking maneuvers to happen into sheave-lock, because you only need a little brush of the brakes, then you're flying through this scary fast sweeper. As you let it drift out to the curb, stay hugged to the left, then stab the brakes and chuck it into Marlborough. This is where the poor visibility outside the sides of the cockpit make it tricky getting the car right up to the edge of the track coming into Renault. Mash the power once again, switch sides, and then blow it up for Vodafone. This will be another important bend to try to find speed on the exit. Be wary of climbing that inside curb too much, but get on the gas as soon as you're sure it'll stick. Over the rise, pick a reference point, aim for it, and get it lined up for the braking into Audi. This is your next best place to try to pass, but going through this odd chicane hairpin hybrid too wide is ill-advised. Drivers can easily trip over each other through here. Up next is Kumho, and with the fact that you won't be lifting until the first corner, you better believe you want to carry your speed off of here. Use the banking and really get greedy on the inside curb. Then give a nice gentle arc down to the apex of Lyndike, keep your foot planted, and drift it out onto the pit straight. Hopefully you've kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Zandvoort.
Where the rents are high and the seabirds fly, a lap around the dunes here at Zandvoort. Joe, pretty close when it comes to best of day honors at Watkins Glen last time.
Yeah, it was extremely tight. You talk about some good results for a number of drivers. Take a look at the top three here. A tie for first, and then the next car back, only 1 point back. So Charlie Summers, Kerry Nolden, and Patrick Kessler really put their stamp on that one. Now, Phil Reed wasn't too far behind. Again, consistency, the key there. A fourth and a fourth. And Rene Oosterkamp, surprisingly low for his feature race. A sixth place really hurt him there and what kept him from being a lot closer up to the top four. But that'll certainly tighten things up here in the championship with those drivers all failing to get away from one another.
Let's go ahead and look at the standings for the Drivers' Championship. GSRC stat boys Simon and Poindexter are now taking into account all three possible drop events allowed for in the rules. These numbers shown here for the very first time anywhere. And drop races have really benefited Kerry Nolden. See that zero by the droplet on his row there. Nolden has 3-0 results that he gets to drop. And there's Nolden's AOR Orange teammate Phil Reed in third. It's been tough sledding of late for PSR Green's Lubomir Morris, likewise for SimRC Retro Stefan Herman. Now, all this going on behind two-time champion Rene Oosterkamp. Let's go down and look at the team championships. And again, remember, these take into account the drop races as well. The total is the sum of both team members' 3-drop total. As mentioned in the opening, Reed and Nolden are right there for AOR Orange. Oosterkamp and his SimRC partner Patrick Kessler have little room for error. The big news, though, is how about AOR Blue? Up 3 spots to make the overlay. No real chance for Charlie Summers or Daniel Morris getting any higher than 5th. Nevertheless, well done. Okay, let's go ahead. These are always interesting. Let's look at the series details for today, Joe.
Of course, as we mentioned, we are in round 9 out of 12, and you talked about those 3 drop weeks to help the drivers out, which means after this round, obviously, if you have 3 bad ones, you're not going to improve your points at all, even though you might still have a chance to stay in it. Now, this is a double feature if you've never watched AOR, and we'll go a little bit over what this first race will entail in a little bit. The setups are open on these cars, which means that anything that you can do on the real Formula Renault 2.0, you can tweak on these cars. They, however, have no fast repairs in either of the races. So basically, you don't have a spare car waiting. If you damage it, you can hop into the pits and jump into and continue on racing. Now let's look at this specific race, this feature race, this first one. You saw on the first graphic that it's about 40 minutes. Well, not about, it is exactly 40 minutes. And the grid on this one, the reason it says sequential is because they're going to order the grid differently on the sprint race. We'll get to that in a second. Pit stops, well, you have one expected one, and that'll be important because the pit entry here, we'll talk about that later, is pretty darn tricky. They have an incident cap, which means if cars have an off track, if they touch the wall, another car, or have a spin, they rack up a certain amount of incident points. They'll be disqualified if they hit 15 of those in this feature race. Points are worth more. I talked about that a little bit when I went over best of day. If you have a bad finish in the feature race, it's a little bit harder to come back and be best of day by having a good finish in the sprint race, although it does help. And it pays down to 20th position. Now, why did I bring up that sequential grid? Because, I mean, that's the way most series order them, right? Well, in the sprint race, they're going to regrid them, inverting the top 20 finishing positions here in this feature race. That's if you finish within 2 laps. So, Bill, it is important where you finish this one and the next one.
All the business is out of the way, and now we can turn our attention to the business on the track. And it is Kerry Nolden still out there putting in a qualifying time.
I think he's got his 3 in, so at this point, he's just practicing. Only driver yet to get his time in is Daniel Morris right now, and he's actually running out of that time. He doesn't have a lap down, Bill, so he's going to have a very long race on his hands if he expects to move up the field at a place like this.
Daniel Morris teamed up with Charlie Summers for Team AOR Blue. It's a team that made the overlay into 5th position. Charlie Summers has his qualifying time in. He sits 3rd. You know, we talked about it in the opening. The team there of Rene Oosterkamp and Patrick Kessler for SimRC. Well, they said 1 and 2. Looks like a good day for them. But Nolden and Reed, 4th and 5th right now, right behind them. That team championship probably going to be more exciting than the drivers' championship, as Oosterkamp really has that one in good position. There's Daniel Morris. He got a time in with 2 seconds left.
No, he didn't get a time in. It did not count, unfortunately.
Well, we're going to be able to go to the graphic right now and show you the starting grid, and it is indeed Rene Oosterkamp and Patrick Kessler on the front row. Charlie Summers and Kerry Nolden fill up row 2. Phil Reed and Alain Tessier in 5th and 6th. Lubomir Morris, Matty Sipla behind them. Row 5, Christopher Rigby, Alexei Soroika. Joe?
In 11th, it will be Ali Hay with Evan Emre next to him in 12th. Then Tom Van Hoyman starts P13 and Thomas Edwards in 14th. Stuart Milne will start the race in 15th position with Loic Barbie in 16th and Urka Lindstrom in 17th. Marcus Deck will be P18, then Dave Goudlar will start in 19th. 20th will be Knut Martinsen, and the last driver with its time on the qualifying is David Santana in 21st. These 3 cars did not get times in. Josh Ladd, Daniel Morris, and Connor Ryan rounding out the field.
With only 24 names on the entry list, should not be too hard to make the Dos Equis position, like we like to call the 20th spot, to get that regrid, assuming you can stay no more than 1 lap down. There you can see on that long shot those 2, what my old partner Sean Crackers Ambas used to call the Swiss cheese colors there of those 2 Sim RC cars of Oosterkamp and Kessler as we fly over the grid right now. Round number 9 here. 12 races on the schedule, so we're getting to the back half of season number 11. You can hear those engines begin to harmonize a bit. You know what to do. Gather up the chickens, they come around the cows. The horses are indeed out of the barn here in the Netherlands. Rene Oosterkamp leads the stampede down into the first corner. His partner behind him, Patrick Kessler, in second, being challenged by Charlie Summers. The 2 AOR orange drivers of Nolden and Reed in 4th and 5th.
Thankfully pretty clean, but they're not out of the woods yet. It can get really backed up here into Hugenholtz as well, Bill. And indeed, it looks like we got some cars piling into each other in the back.
They get tangled up through Hugenholtz.
Lindstrom.
Josh Ladd, who didn't put in that qualifying time. Lindstrom as well, Joe mentioned.
Yep, and Deck. So bad start for them. In fact, not sure if they're going to be able to get back out in these 40 minutes.
Up front is still Oosterkamp, Kessler, Summers, Nolden, and Reed. The back half of your top 10, the Frenchman, Alain Tessier, Lubomir Morris, Matty Sipla. Watch out for him. He's faster than his qualifying time would indicate. Newcomer Christopher Rigby in 9th, and Alexei Sorokin in 10th.
Yeah, and you often hear, Bill, about the starts of races being the time you see aggressive moves, which seems counterintuitive, but at a track like this, you kind of have to expect it because it's so hard to get by someone. When everything's close together and a little bit chaotic, you might have a chance to really surprise the car ahead of you if they're focusing on someone that's ahead of them as well. So I think in the first 3 or 4 laps, we're going to see some wild dives.
Well, the car ahead of the field right now is Oosterkamp, as he's already opened up a second lead over his teammate Kessler. A challenge, though, for 3rd position. Summers on the inside being looked at from Nolden, and that's going to leave the door open for Phil Reed. He drives it in deep. Nolden and Reed side by side as Summers begins to blink a little bit. Let's move Reed up into 4th.
And Nolden down 2 spots and 1 corner effectively. It's not good for him. See, it slots him back into a train of cars. He says, whoa, what a mistake behind. That was, actually, no, that was Nolden himself making a mistake.
Kerry going the wrong direction. He falls back into 7th behind Tessier now and Lubomir Morris.
And, you know, this just pays credit to what he said before the race. He got on the driver chat and said that he does not like his car in words that I can't really repeat on air. And the way that he's driving here early, I think says that he indeed is struggling just the way with it set up. We got more action.
Side by side, yep.
He's off track, and yeah, the side by side was Tessier and Lubomir Morris. Morris came out in front.
We look at that battle, and Reed falls all the way down to 11th position. Oh, a big pile up.
Kerry Nolden got hit from behind, and a bunch of cars had to scatter. Ali Hay was involved, Alexei Sorokin, and then poor Matty Sippola actually is still doing donuts in the gravel. Take
a look at this one.
Yeah, this all kind of started with that side-by-side action, and it checked a bunch of cars up. You could see it happen just in front of Alexi that we're seeing, where Nolden got sandwiched effectively. He was trying to stay out of the car ahead, but he got bumped from behind, and that just turned him around.
That was Sipla who got him from behind. The Sipla's car went perpendicular with the track, and everybody came into him. So some big names out. And pit lane is busy. There's a lot of guys coming in for repairs.
Yeah, I mean, that's the good news, at least, that the pit window is wide open for this whole thing. So you can come in and try to get back out there, and it'll hopefully give them some clear track if they're not too damaged. But this is not the way you want to start. We've already had almost half the field take a pit stop, Bill.
Yeah. Of course, that's in the window here because of the rules. They can start with whatever fuel they want, and they just need to stop for tires. Let's go ahead and look at 7th position. This is Phil Reed. He qualified in 5th. He's fallen back a few spots. He's being challenged now by Stu Milne, Tom Van Hoyman, and also Loic Barbet. Remember, we saw Loic have a good run last time out as we're getting to know him.
Yeah, and top 10 right now isn't too bad, although it's a smaller field, so I'm sure he'd like to be higher up. Also, apologies to Loic if I mispronounce your last name. As a skateboarder, my mind is stuck on Ray Barbie.
I like Barbie. Let's go with Barbie until we know better. That's going to be easier for me to remember.
You know, I'm surprised that Kerry Nolden is as high up as he is. He's in 6th right now, and he's been off track and shuffled around so much.
And had a center punch to the gearbox as well. He is in front of his teammate right now. That's Phil Reed. They race 6th and 7th. Evan Everett is the leader of all the cars who've made a stop.
Right now, he's actually got a big gap the next car up. That's Connor Ryan. So I'm guessing he probably had to come in for a little bit of damage repair. Maybe got caught up in one of those scuffles that we witnessed. So he might look like he'll gain a lot of places, but I think he won't gain quite as many as we'd hope.
Some longer stops for some big names. Sipla had about a 10-second stop. David Butalar as well, a 10-second, a really long stop from Thomas Edwards. That race wasn't too bad, just a tick under 7 seconds.
So maybe it was scheduled, actually.
Yeah.
No. As we take a look at 11th, Ali Hay, who was one of those drivers that got sent into the gravel at Hans Ernst, he's now got David Santana close behind, and Ali is not sitting in a good position because he is one of the farthest cars down that has yet to pit. So he's going to be overtaken by a few here soon.
Right behind Santana is a man on the come. You can see him way back there as we look off the back of Hay. One more car behind him is Connor Ryan. He's in 13th. He wasn't able to put in a qualifying time. He is up 11 spots and coming up on the back of Santana.
Right on board with Ryan. And there's a number of corners that can be a little tricky. Like coming here into Hugenholz. Gerloff right there is very, very blind, which is why on that first lap we saw cars get into each other, because if someone messes up, you often don't see the car getting offline or spinning until you get right there on top of them and hit them.
Hugenholz, a corner named after Han Hugenholz, one of the early track directors here. When he retired, they couldn't afford to give him a prize or a present or a watch, so they said, we'll just name a corner after him.
He also designed this course, interestingly, and Suzuki.
I didn't know that.
Yes, indeed. He was basically the shoot, I can't think of the guy now that designs all the F1 tracks. I'm feeling like a fool right now, but yeah, Tilke. Thank you. He was the Tilke of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. I tried to do that with my wife. I told her I couldn't afford a wedding ring. We'll just name the hallway after you. She didn't go for it.
Man, you know, the good thing for some of these drivers, though, with that early action that we saw, Bill, is they're now really spread apart. And, you know, I talked about how hard it is to pass around here. Now all they really have to do is focus on their own pace instead of battling someone being held up. So it's bad news for the fans, but good news for all the drivers that are still running.
Absolutely. look at that battle for ninth. There's Tom Van Hoyman in that 3-car. A little bit of a scuffle going on.
Tom sitting within the top 10. He's just about half a second back from Milne here. And this is one of those parts where it's really hard to try and make a pass happen. You can sometimes see sneak attacks up here into Renault and Vodafone. These back-to-back hairpins, but you got to be really, really close and probably getting to the point of desperation on those. And neither of these guys look like they're really in that spot. Ideally, what they'll want to do is set them up coming out of this hairpin down into Hans Erst, or sometimes called the Audi S chicane that we've got breaking next.
And we ride on board with Van Hoyman. They continue to race. I can report that Daniel Morris made a stop and actually came out and was able to get around Evan Emery, so now he's the leader of all the cars who have stopped. Look at him in 14th position. And there you can see Emery right behind him. The guy to watch is a car in 16th. He's 1 car behind Emery. That's Sorokin. At least by reputation, he should be able to run these guys down. Not sure, though, how healthy his car is after that early incident.
I'm trying to take a look at it, and from far away, I can't see a whole lot wrong with it. Let's see if we can get some close-ups here, give us a better angle. Maybe he's got some damage. If it is, it'd be very minute.
He was one of those drivers that took about an extra 5 or 6 seconds on his first stop.
Might have just replaced the front wing, which you can do in this car. If it gets damaged, your pit crew, your virtual pit crew, can just plop a new one on like they do in real life, and it's good as new.
Director, I'm going to jump you. Let's go to P9 real quick. We'll take a check back in on these guys. So here he comes, Loic Barbie.
Yeah, looking
right behind Van Hoyman.
Looking a lot closer to Van Hoyman than Van Hoyman is to Milne. And that's always kind of your worst nightmare there, Bill, is like you're gaining on a car ahead and you think, all right, I got an opportunity. And then someone rocks up behind you and is a lot closer to you than you are to the car you're attacking. And you really have to change your focus, even though as a racer, you want to focus on the car ahead and try to attack them.
Right over that next car back in the very back there, you just saw at the top of your screen, that's Ali Hay. Ali does a lot of racing in these Formula Renault 2.0. We see him racing in this series, and then on alternating Sundays, he also goes for the absolute beginner, the Formula Nigel, where they race the Formula Renaults down there.
Seems to like this car. We'll have to see if either of these series switch over to the new Formula 3 that iRacing just announced yesterday.
That is exciting. I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, it'll certainly create some interesting new series, I'm sure. But right now, my interest is with Loic and how closely he's able to follow Tom. This is a good illustration of what I keep talking about, Bill. He's right up behind him, but he hasn't really had any good chances to make a hard attack. Ooh, this might be a good one.
There it is.
Not brave enough. Marlboro is basically a pretty swift kink. It's single file, so I'm not too shocked that he backed out of it. But you're going to see that a lot, where drivers will maybe stick their nose in, and when they realize the pass isn't on, they'll think long term and they'll start to back out. Especially now that we're this many laps in, and they know that the driver ahead is pretty close on pace. If that is the case, if they're not close on pace, then you'll see a desperate move.
You might be wondering why we're not focusing up front much. There's really not much happening up there. Let's go to 5th real quick, though. I think we got a pass coming up right here. This is Tessier. He had a bad exit. Now making a run on the outside. He's going to get the spot. That's Kerry Nolden.
Yeah, Nolden was waiting for that moment. I mentioned it in the pre-race that drivers just have to kind of sit and wait behind the car ahead, see where they're weak, and wait for a big mistake from them, because right there was absolutely perfect. You don't want to make a mistake on the final corner, Lyondike, because one of the best places to pass is down in Tarzan, and Nolden pounced as soon as it happened.
Right on board, chasing them. Can we go to 9th real quick? I think Barbie's going to make the move here. He nowhere to go.
Loic was looking. He's starting to get a little bit more antsy about this, just poking and prodding a little more. However, if he does that too much, it could put Tom Van Hooyman offline and slow both of them up. And then suddenly they're going to be in trouble because we mentioned Ali Hay coming forward. Well, he's only about 8/10 behind, so there's not a lot of ground for him to catch up and make it a 3-car fight.
Yeah, he's coming. If you remember right, Milne was right in this mix as well. Stewart has driven away in 8th. You can see him way up there as we ride on board with Barb.
26 minutes left to go. Honestly, if I was Loic, I would just duck into the pits at this point. Especially now that Ali has since gained another 10 since we last checked on him. So the best bet for Loic is just try and use a little bit of strategy and get out of what could be a horrible tussle.
And we quickly drop back to 12th position. This is the battle that's been shaping up. This is David Santana with Connor Ryan. Remember, Ryan did not put in a qualifying time. Running up on the back of him, challenging here.
See him ride high like that. You can do that with the banking. You can see he carried the momentum. I think he might have this. Let's see if Gerlach, that's usually single file. The car is just squirming, and he finally gets it done in Hugenholz. That's brave stuff from Connor.
That's how you do it.
I think he's still got a fight on his hands, though, because Santana is staying right with him.
These guys have 24 seconds back to Daniel Morris, who's the leader of all the cars who've made it stop. We continue to watch this battle. It's good.
And that's widened since we last looked. At the start of the race, it was about 21 seconds between Santana and Morris. So despite those two fighting, he's still losing time to them. I think he might be limping.
I'd like to check in on 4th position real quick just to give you an idea of what I think is going to come here pretty quick. Remember, Kerry Nolden got around Alain Tessier? Well, now he's also gaining on Lubomir Morris in 4th. That interval 1 second. He's a ways before he gets there, but he's coming. There's Lubomir.
And with how he caught and passed Tessier, I have a feeling that this is more of a thing to come than an if, because Kerry's just been very consistent ever since those early incidents. He's put his helmet down and just focused on what's ahead, which is what you got to do in those situations. You can't get flustered or sit there and kick yourself or think about what happened. You got to just worry about what happens next. Hit your marks.
We're going to check back in. Van Hooyman. Here comes Barbie again. Boy, he's pestering him.
Yeah, he keeps trying, but like I said, I don't know why he hasn't decided that there's nothing in it for me to sit here and try and tangle with him on track. Let's just hop into the pits and see if I can outrun him. Because now look at, oh wow, Ali Hay is down to 0.5 of a second. As we look back from Van Hooyman, you could see how much closer that second red car is.
And with a small field and the attrition that happened early that got Rigby, Cipolla, Martinson, and Deck and Ladd, I don't think he has to worry too much about traffic even if he were to pit.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, there's a few cars that have already pitted, but they're so spread out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's going to get a clear bit of track to himself unless he has some horribly bad luck.
That's a good battle. I don't want to jump you around, but can we go back? This one's heating up back into Evan Emre here and Alex Sorokin. Now, these guys have made their stop.
And Alexi's been running these guys down, too. Remember, he was a little bit farther back.
Yep.
So this is going to get a little bit interesting. And this is a great place for Alexi to get this close. Look at how much closer he is to Emre. You got to power off Kumho, and he almost gets into the back of him, just chops him off. Emre knew what was coming there. I was going to say, you've got to get the launch off of Kumho, and thankfully we'll get a second fight with the slipstream down here to Tarzan, but looks like it's just not meant to be.
And Morris Daniel locks him up a little bit in front of Emre and Sorokin. These guys are the leaders of the cars who have pitted. They're 52 seconds behind the leader, but not that far behind the guys that are running in 9th or 10th. And there's a mistake.
Ooh. Yeah,
And
easy pickings for Emre.
yep.
I'm going to keep harping on it, Bill. Mistakes will not only cost you positions, but make your day miserable. And another one right there. Now, thankfully, that's in a lot harder place to pass where he drifted up wide there. So Shivlak, he will be safe out of there. And unfortunately, it will cost him time to the driver that just passed him. Emre is pulling away.
And on that battle we were looking at earlier, I think that's what Loic Barbie is trying to do, is just kind of pressure Van Hooyman to make a mistake. And this thing has really heated up now, because here's Ali Hay. And Joe, look how they've run down Milne.
Which surprises me, to be honest. I guess maybe Milne inherited a few of those. Where did he qualify, actually? Actually, yeah, he qualified 15th, so he inherited a lot of these. He's sitting in a really good place. All he has to do is withstand the pressure, which it's easier said than done.
We're going to go ahead and stay on this one a while, because this is a good battle, and it's fun to watch a little bit of racing without jumping around so much. Things are pretty much settled down up in front. We continue to watch Barbie work on the back of Van Hooyman, and Ali Hay now in what we'd like to call the popcorn position, watching the show.
And still not, I mean, other than, let's see, was it Emre that popped in for a scheduled stop? Or no, it was Morris. Right. We saw Morris jump in, but nobody else since that opening lap has come in. I'm really kind of agog that nobody's a little more self-aware.
We can stay on this battle, don't leave it. I'll just report, though, that sure enough, Nolden now is about 4 or 5 car lengths back of Morris, so it won't be long till Kerry makes a move there. We'll jump to it when it's time.
Yeah, right now this is the one that's looking a lot more enticing. As we like to say, Bill, spidey senses are tingling. I feel like something's going to happen soon, especially if they fully catch up to the gearbox of Milne.
Well, let's look at this. Here's a pass for 6th position. This is Tessier. And Reed got the pass made. So now Reed follows his partner, Nolden, who's up in 5th.
That was really textbook stuff. It was heading into Tarzan, just ducked his car inside, as we'll look at the replay. Now, Tessier, he did the smart thing. He let him have the inside and then tried to pull an over-under, but just he didn't get a good enough launch to really make that work, because you don't really break that much heading into Gerlach off of there, so you really got to get side by side. And you can see where that started just from that little off track. Actually, no, that was other cars, I think, there that we saw.
Tessier back in racing in 7th.
Here we go on the replay. Yeah, saw it coming. He knew that he had a much better launch, so he wasn't going to try to cover off the inside. He was going to try to play the sneaky game, but the sneaky game didn't work.
Now we come back. Let's check in on 4th position. His teammate, Kerry Nolden, that's Reed's teammate, still working on Lubomir Morris. Nolden is faster. In fact, Nolden's had enough of it, Joe. He's going to come in and make a stop.
So does Charlie Summers, so few of our top drivers. Let's see if they come out into clear air, though. They're a lot farther up than some of these other cars. Milne is going to come on in. So is Barbie. Loic. I'm just going to keep with Loic. That's what we're going to go with today.
So that battle that we saw with Milne and Van Hooyman and Hay and Loic, that breaks up as 2 of them pit, 2 of them don't. Charlie Summers comes out, leader of all the cars who've pitted. He's well out in front of Stuart Milne, which we would expect.
And Charlie timed this perfectly. He has nobody in front of him for a long ways. Ali Hay is up in front of him, but it's going to take multiple laps for Charlie to run him down. Honestly, by the time he catches him, Hay should probably be taking his stop, since we'll run out of time.
Yeah, the interesting stop will be Lubomir Morris, because Nolden was right behind him and quick. So we'll see if Nolden can get him there. See if Morris really locking him up.
That depends on if there's any damage on Sorokin. Actually, no, Nolden's back out.
Yeah.
But Nolden had a lot of damage because he had to sit and get it repaired. Apparently, he felt like he needed it because he didn't opt out of them. It was 22 seconds as opposed to most drivers doing 6 to 8 seconds.
Reed is in. Yes, that's going to kill Nolan. Any chance of that? All that hard work before the pit stop. Now Reed is in, so this will be interesting to see. So I would expect Summers should be able to get around him comfortably.
Oh, easily. He's coming down the front stretch, yeah. He's already by. Reed is back out just behind Santana. And unfortunately, because of that, he's probably going to be held up. He's going to want David to pit pretty quickly here. Same thing with Connor Ryan ahead of him. And if these two guys start battling, then it's an absolute worst case scenario for Phil.
And remember, it is a giant pit window in this series. It's the dynamic of the rules. They can pit anytime from the first lap to, well, just before the white flag.
15 minutes left, so we're well past that halfway mark. This is not looking good for Reed. Santana is starting to climb all over Ryan. Oh, and Patrick Kessler's in.
Hitting from second. Lubomir Morris is going to stay out, so he'll inherit second position. Kessler. Now, Kessler had about maybe 2 seconds on Summers. So Summers has a chance maybe if things go wrong, but Kessler's out comfortably.
Yeah, Summers is just passing the pit exit now.
Kessler got really lucky, though. He came out just ahead of this battle. Remember Van Hoyman and Hay? This was that battle that also included Barbie and Milne. Well, Milne and Barbie have taken their stop, but look at this. Van Hoyman and Hay battling for 4th position right now. They still need to come in.
Yeah, and this is why I was talking about what I was talking about before with Phil Reed. He really wanted to be exactly where Kessler was. And I think Reed is actually being held up right now because he's caught the back of Santana and Ryan. Oh, and you could see the speed difference there. He's just climbing over the gearbox, and he can't do much with it at all. If anything, this is where Reed needs to be decisive. This is the type of move he needs to pull. Just ducks his nose down the inside, doesn't take second chances, and gets it done.
Great camera work by Sean Ambrose there. Nice job.
Our leader
now
pits.
Reed in between. The leader comes in.
I tell you what, Osterkamp is looking at extending this healthy points lead. Unless he has something go terribly wrong here before this race is over, or if he messes up royally in the sprint race, this is really going to make him hard to catch.
Comes out comfortably. And, oh, is that his teammate that he's
That is his teammate. Almost. Wow. Wow, that was tight.
Woohoo.
Bill,
take another look at it.
2 tenths longer in the pit lane, and that would have been an overtake by Kessler.
Yep.
I know it's an old racing cliche, but pit stops matter so much to your race. If you think nailing your corners, nailing your laps, having pacing speed is good, well, pit stops can do so much for you.
I want to jump you down now to 9th position. We're going to assume that's going to be fairly calm because those two teammates are not going to fight it out. This is that story. Here's Milne, and now look what has happened. This is Nolden. Barbie, again, has been following Milne, working to get around him as much as he can. Nolden finally made this pass, and now Nolden is working on the back of Milne.
Curious.
And these three guys are racing Van Hoyman and Hay, who are racing 4th and 5th right now on the other side of the track, but yet to make their stop.
I'm curious how much damage is left over on Nolden, because that was more than just simply replacing his nose.
Yeah.
And it could be stuff that we can't see. He takes a little bit of a peek down to Hans Ernst, but He's not brave enough to try and send it in. He's only got 11 minutes left here, and he's sitting in 10th. This is going to hurt him in the points.
How long he was in there, he should have got a lot of things done, because he was in there could have had lunch by the time he pulled in and came out.
Here we go. He was setting himself up for the easy overtake, and Milne knows it. He didn't even bother to defend. He just kind of waves him by here and slots in so that he can try and defend from Barbie for the rest of the way. Sometimes, Bill, it's wiser to pick your battles and know when it's better to just say, all right, let's let him through and fight the driver I can fight.
2 drivers yet to pit, and we're going to look at those right now. This is Van Hooyman and Hay.
And like you said, they still got a lot of time. It's still very open. They do have Charlie Summers start to close on them, but again, he's got a few more laps probably before he catches them, and he could be a worry. I think, if I'm honest, it's in the favor of Hay to try and do that early stop.
The bogey time back to Milne and Barbie, who they're racing, is about 24.5 seconds. So have these guys been putting in good times up here racing? Maybe they have. Certainly Milne and Barbie had their hands full with letting Nolden go around them.
Van Hooyman's pushing. You could see he locked him up. It's very easy to do that around the circuit, Bill, where we see the tire smoke start to come from those front tires, especially right here, Hugenholtz. I found I always locked him up just because of the banking. It tends to like lift that left front up off the ground. Now, you can get away with that if it's fully lifted up, and then you kind of cadence brake so that when it touches the ground again, it doesn't stand still.
Allie.
Barbie and Milne are side by side right now. And that was through Hugenholtz, and Stewart managed to fend him off.
Boy, Barbie has worked and worked and worked. I don't think we want to replay, because I think by the time we get done with the replay, Barbie will have made this pass. Man, he is right on the gearbox of Milne, but that's how he's been racing the whole race.
Now, if I was him, I would set myself up for a good exit out of Vodafone. This is Renault. Vodafone's the next hairpin, the left-hander. Go a little deep into there and then set it up so that you can really get the car to bite, turn in, and he didn't quite do it. Yeah, in fact, he had a horrible exit. See, you want to launch off of there to get a nice run down to here so that you can maybe have a chance to pass under braking into the chicane, but he's got to work on it next lap.
You can look on the top line of the screen there. You can watch the interval between Osterkamp and Kessler. It continues to grow, so there's no need to go there. If you want to monitor, just look up at the top of your screen. We're looking right now at this one.
And the reverse of what I said should happen happened. Tom Van Hooyman pitted before Ali Hay, and I think this is a mistake by Tom. All Ali has to do now, since he's in clear track, he just has to pump out fast laps, and he could potentially jump Tom.
But Van Hooyman gets out in front of Milne and Barbie. So that 24.5 second bogey time was not enough. And then, in fact, he comes out just behind Kerry Nolden.
Which shouldn't really hold him up. Nolden should be relatively faster than Van Hooyman.
So now our driver in third, Ali Hay, the last car to pit.
Wow, look at how close that is. If it was a nighttime race, we'd know what color of eyes that driver is.
Just over 7 minutes of racing to go.
Loeb sets himself up a little bit closer, but again, just not a good enough launch on Stewart.
Let's leave this one for a minute and jump up to one that's a little farther up. 5th position. Little by little, Phil Reed has been running down Lubomir Morris. He's got a good run now. Is he going to force the issue? Not this lap.
But he's starting to make him feel the pressure. We saw a big lockup from Lubomir. So he's obviously taking it deep into the corners just to try and keep Phil from getting an opportunity.
Reed ran into some trouble, lost lots of positions early on. He's been working his way back.
And he has just about done that. He qualified in 5th. He's sitting in 6th. So that's not too shabby of a recovery if he can get right back to where his grid position was.
And they will vulture a position because Ali Hayes still needs to make that stop.
Ah, good point. Ooh, Loic Barbie is very, very close right now. Unfortunately, he was heading into Shivlock. And just, there's so little braking and it's so late into that corner. It's really tough to overtake.
Joe, I got to give Barbie some credit for he's been behind drivers this entire race and really close behind them, and he has yet to make a mistake. I don't, knock on wood here. I don't want to jinx him, but also, that's frustrating. You know,
it is, and he's showing great maturity. If he can find a little bit more speed, he'll be a force to be reckoned with. Maybe watch out for him next season to come back and maybe jump up to be getting more top 10s. Oh, but look, he's sitting in a great position, Bill. He's setting himself up great. Just got to get a launch here off of Kumho. I think he's got it. This is it right here.
Yeah, he's got a good run. Ducks to the inside. Milne will have no defense.
He almost looked like he went to defend. You could see he ducked over a little bit, but man, the horses were out of the barn by that point.
But there is a little banking around Tarzan that allowed Milne to get a good run on the outside and defend the position.
Wow. Man, don't forget Loic's maturity, but man, Stewart's maturity as well. Yeah. Just standing up to the attacks that he's had from Loic. I think both these guys deserve phenomenal credit for the way that they've driven this race.
We'll go up to 5th, and this is Morris. Again, Reed looking left, looking right, trying to find a way around.
He could have a look if he wants. Yeah, there we go. Now, it's hard to complete this, though, Bill. Let's see if he can actually get done. He's going to have to squeeze him out. Wow, nice stuff by Phil Reed, and even better by Lubomir, because he could have tried to hold up beside him and knocked into each other, but he decided it's better to just finish the race. So that was greatly executed by both drivers.
And Ali Hay has finally made that stop. So he is in. The driver I'm interested in picking up would be Tom Van Hoyman, currently in 9th, just coming out of the Lyondike right now.
I think he's got him easily. Ali Hay coming out, but he's got to go at the pit speed limit. Hoyman's passed. Yeah, oh man, that was an easy jump for him.
And look at this. Here comes Milne. Milne on the outside. He knows how to take that outside line. He just did it the lap earlier. Milne gets him, and Barbie gets him.
Wow, nightmare scenario for poor Ali Hay. Thought he was racing one driver. Not only does that driver gap him, but the two cars right behind him also get by.
Ali Hayes stop in the box, 7.6 seconds. About half a second longer than Milne or Barbie, but there you have it. And now everything's done with just under 3 minutes of racing to go. Renee Oosterkamp has been the class of the field. Go ahead, Joe.
Two drivers we haven't watched ever since they had that close action since the pit stops is Oosterkamp and Kessler. And Kessler isn't really threatening too badly, but he's keeping his teammate really under tabs. I mean, it's about 1.5 seconds back. So one little mistake from Renee could allow Patrick to get up to his gearbox.
Riding on board with the driver in second, looking ahead of at his teammate. Got out 6.2 seconds back to Charlie Summers, who's all alone in third.
We're going to get the white flag next time by, so all Renee has to do is another lap and a half, and he's home free. Oh no, Loic. Loic just had a big incident.
It went, I thought he was going to be able to bring it back. but the car got off into the beach and there was no coming back.
Yeah, that's just one of those unfortunate spots. When you hit the curb on the outside of Kumho, you see right there, the car kind of straddles it and it doesn't want to turn. That's why you saw what happened there. But then I'm not sure. I guess he must have kept his foot in it and his tires were dirty, and that's why he understeered off, because that corner is easily flat out. I'm not sure why he went off a second time.
All that work for naught, as he will finish down the order. And I'm not even sure he's going to get the regrid. We'll see how that plays out here. Meanwhile, our leader comes across to get the white flag.
I think Loic will get the regrid. In fact, all of our drivers still running will get regrid. Thomas Edwards is sitting in 19th, one lap down, which would be the pole.
You're right. I saw Loic come into the pits, but he came back out. I thought his day was done, but no, he's going to finish up. Good for him. He's going to be fun to watch. With that said, let's go ahead and watch. I guess our leader, we should give him a little bit of time as he heads down into Shivlock.
And we don't have to go to it, but ironic justice, Stuart Milne spun in the exact same place that that Loic had his incident.
Racing gods handing out a little equal justice there. Well, Rene Oosterkamp, he's got 2 championships under his belt already, on his way to a 3rd one if things keep going the way they are. This is round number 9, Apex Online Racing's Formula Renault Season 11 Championship. And Rene just has 2 more corners, and he'll get credit for winning the feature race where the big points are. Going to be a good points day for SimRC as Oosterkamp gets the win. His teammate Patrick Kessler gets 2nd.
Summers is going to take 3rd, but 4th place is still up for grabs. Morris has not fallen off of Reed, and actually, I don't think he can snipe him at the line here.
Nah, that finish line going to come up too quick. Phil Reed comes back, has a good rebound race, finishing in 4th. Morris takes 5th.
Kerry Nolden gets himself back up to 7th. Boy, he's going to want to have a little bit of a better start in the sprint race, though. That really set the tone. He started on the 2nd row, and 7th is still a disappointment, although that's good damage limitation.
How about you saw Tom Van Hoyman coming across there in 8th? He lost Milne, Hay, and Barbie nowhere to be found.
Connor Ryan, the driver who started way in the back without a qualifying time, about that 12th spot. That is handy. That's not easy on a track where it's supposedly extremely tough to overtake.
Kevin Santana is going to be the last car on the lead lap in 18th. I believe the man on the pole is going to be Thomas Edwards. His race is done. He is going to finish the only car 1 lap down. So look for Tommy to be up front when we go to the sprint race. Remember, this is a doubleheader. And the best part of any doubleheader event is that break right in between. It's the perfect race, of the perfect blend of the pre-race high and the post-race jitters. What we're going to do right now, take a short break, but we'll come back to run down the entire finishing order, maybe talk to some of the drivers before we get all of our ducks in a row for the sprint race to follow shortly. Stay close. sanctioned by Apex Online Racing. You're watching the Global Sim Racing Channel's coverage of the Formula Renault 2.0 Season 11 Championship. And it's a doubleheader. The feature race is in the books. The sprint race is coming up. Let's give you the finishing order of the feature that you just saw. Rene Oosterkamp, it wasn't quite wire to wire, but virtually it was, as he gets another win. His fourth feature win of the season. Patrick Kessler, his teammate, going to come home in second. Charlie Summers started third. That's where he's going to finish. Phil Reed up a position from his starting spot, but boy, he had to work on it because he fell well down the order after a mistake. Lubomir Morris in fifth. The back half of your top 10, Alain Tassier, Kerry Nolden up into seventh. Tom Van Hoyman was in a battle the whole race. He wins the best of it as he comes home in eighth, leaving the guys he was fighting well behind. Alexei Sorokin bounces back into ninth. Stuart Milne settles for 10th. Joe?
Ali Hay wasn't able to capitalize on everybody else's problems today. Started 11th, finished 11th. Connor Ryan, however, had a much better climb, going from 24th to 12th. Daniel Morris as well, 23rd to 13th. So they basically just followed each other through the field. Erka Lindstrom finished 14th today, with Evan Emre coming home with a 15th spot. Loic started in 16th and actually could have finished up within the top 10, but had to settle for that 16th spot in the end. David Boudelard, 17th, and David Santana, 18th. Then in 19th, it was Tom Edwards, who should be taking the pole on the regrid there in 19th. Christopher Rigby finished within the top 20. And then it's drivers who DNF'd: Matty Sipola, 21st, Knut Martinsen, 22nd, Marcus Deck, 23rd, and Josh Ladd, 24th.
Strangely enough, we did a good job of going through the field, trying to give a little bit of screen time to all the drivers. But the one driver we probably didn't get much screen time is indeed Thomas Edwards, who will be starting on the pole. So whatever he missed out on the feature race, well, he'll get a little attention in the sprint races. He'll be leading the field down into Tarzan when they do actually get that underway. Looking for a big name here, as we still see no drivers ready for an interview. Looking for a big name, Joe, that might get a regrid, that could be surprised back there. Really hard to find there. Maybe Ali Hayes, the first really fast one we see, and he's a long way away.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that Ali Hay has enough to really try and do anything with that, especially considering he'll be regrid in the middle of the pack, where we all know that that's probably the hardest place to try and make inroads, where you've got fast drivers coming from behind and you've got slow drivers in front of you. You kind of just get stuck exactly where you started anyways. So I kind of anticipate that unless Hay gets to capitalize on people having an accident ahead of him, probably just going to wind up in that 11th spot.
Talk about a guy getting stuck. Loic Barbie was behind a driver the entire race, but he's going to start on the outside of row 2 when they regrid, so he might be somebody to watch. Again, not sure if he has the pace. We'll see those big guys as they work their way through. Oosterkamp, Summers, Kessler, Reed, they'll all be in the back. This should be a good one. Well, it looks like we have nobody here for an interview. So if I'm going to, I think, why don't we then, since nobody's going to come and talk to us, why don't we go ahead and take this opportunity to take our second break. That way we can get everything set up for the sprint race that's coming up shortly. Don't go far. We'll be right back. You're you, and we are the Global Sim Racing channel. And this is Apex Online Racing's Formula Renault 2.0 Season 11 Championship, Round 9 from Zandvoort. The feature race is in the book, so that brings us to the sprint race. Joe's going to tell us all about that.
Absolutely. As the name implies, this is a much shorter race than the other one, only 25 minutes. Now, we already talked about it. They're going to invert the finishing order of the top 20 that finished within 2 laps. So we're going to get 19 cars regrid, which is almost the full amount. Not good news for guys like Oosterkamp. There are no pit stops on this race, though, so it is straight from the green flag to the checkered flag. And if you visit the pits, it's probably going to send you falling way down the order. Incident cap is also smaller because there's fewer laps on tap, so you could be DQ'd still if you're running a little bit sloppy. Now, because it's a shorter race, there are fewer points on available for the win, and they only pay them down to 16th. There's 1 point for that 16th place finish. So it's not as critical that you win these. It's mostly important that you just get a consistent finish, keep the car clean, and try to avoid the chaos that we're probably going to see with this track being so narrow.
Let's take this opportunity and look at the weather here in the Netherlands, see what these guys are facing. It'll be the same weather that they had in the first race as it is here today. Joe, what are we looking at?
It's 101 degrees on track for Fahrenheit. It's 78 air temperature, so it's a little bit slippery. It's slightly slow out there on the circuit, and there is a little wind, but again, that is consistent in the AOR, so it's not going to gust around and surprise them. They should be used to it by now. So conditions aren't bad, aren't good. It's kind of somewhere in the middle, Bill.
Other than the little bit of attrition that we had early on that took out a couple big names, it was a fairly clean race. Of course, if you haven't seen one of these sprint races before, this is a different animal. Joe talked about it. Slow cars up front, fast cars back behind. Should be enough time, though. 20 minutes of racing for those guys to work their way through. And Joe, we talk about it every time when we do Best Today. It's all about just, like for Oosterkamp and Kessler, they may not be able to get up and get the win, but it's all about just scoring points.
Yeah, and they've got to be really careful in the first part. We saw it going through Gerlach and into Hugenholtz, how the drivers kind of piled into each other. We've seen that before in this series and others, specifically with this car even, Bill, where they can get so easily get tangled because they're open wheelers. If you touch wheels, that car goes flying. And at that point, you're just in the midst of a pinball machine, and you have very little control with how close the walls are to each other. We talked about how long this track has been around. It's still very old school in that first part of the lap where the barriers are just right there and there's no place to pull off and get away from things.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but the curves are relatively friendly, right? For these cars, you can abuse them a little bit?
In places, there's certain places you don't want to get up on top of them because they are pretty tall. And there's also spots like, I'd say through Marlboro and through Hans Ernst, there's a curb, and then there's like this tall, I don't know what it is, it looks like a half a peppermint or something, that it's just this disc that's there that is so much taller. You don't want to climb over those, not only because could it hurt the car and unsettle it, but also you could get a cut course if you go too far to the inside. And thankfully, I don't think we saw anybody really suffer from that, but it is a worry.
Now, remember, there is no qualifying right now. These guys are just warming up. The grid will be based on how they raced in the feature race. We're looking at a fun battle right now. I'm not sure quite who we're looking at. Oh, it's Phil Reed. They're having some fun.
Yeah, and Reed's going to be regrid. So he actually has good reason to be fighting with Knut Martensen here, because you want to get some side-by-side practice as he tries to fend off Knut. And we're going to get a nice little drag race down the front stretch. And man, this is one of the worst courses to try and have to come back through the field as they almost bang wheels. I think they did make some contact there.
Yeah, they actually got them interlocked there. Somehow they keep going straight. They're just having some fun. Knut Martensen, we didn't get to see much of him because he had trouble early on. Nicknamed Kmart or the Orange Viking, he is a veteran of this series that's been around since the very beginning. At least ever since GSRC has been on the scene.
And we have a little bit of real racing creeping into sim racing here as David Boudelaar has let us know that he's not going to be able to race in the sprint because his wrists are too injured. So not sure if that came from this race or for something else, but physical injury preventing a driver from racing. Every real-world racer knows that sort of misery. These guys, they are really having fun out there.
That's Phil Reed going off in the grass.
And our viewers who aren't familiar with this might not realize this is just warm-up right now, so they can get away with this. This doesn't count against anything, and now they finally make contact. That's going to do it for them. Just about 30 seconds left, so now they just got to get the car set up for the race.
It was a fun little bit of a pre-race show that Reed and Martinson put on for us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Usually we have drivers down towards the middle of the field, like you mentioned, between the races, and I really don't think we have anyone. So it's kind of a toss-up on who can take away the win here, because it is a little bit easier to defend.
I'll tell you who is in the session. It is Thomas Edwards. Now the question is, will he have the confidence, the intestinal fortitude to go ahead and start this race from the pole? We say yes. Let's see what you got. All right, the practice is over, so as soon as iRacing populates the grid, we'll give it to you. And we expect it to be Thomas Edwards on the front row. And here it is. Now, flanking him will be David Santana. Row 2 is David Boutellard and Loic Barbie. He's exciting. Watch him in 4th. Rolling Thunder, Evan Emre and Urkel Lindstrom go 5th and 6th. David Morris and Connor Ryan. Ryan is quick. Watch him in 8th position. Ali Hay and Stuart Milne make 9th and 10th. Joe?
Alexei Sorokin, 11th, exactly where he finished before. Tom Van Hoyman in 12th, with Kerry Nolden starting 13th, and Elaine Tessier 14th. Lubomir Morris will be P15 and Phil Reed 16th, and it's Charlie Summers starting P17, Patrick Kessler 18th, Renee Oostkamp in 19th, and Christopher Rigby, the first car not to be regrid, in 20th. Kmart 21st, Marcus Deck 22nd, and Josh Ladd 23. Missing that one driver. A little bit sad to see it smaller here in the sprint.
Keep an eye on Josh Ladd at the very end of the pack. He's really fast. He's used to starting back there. It'll be fun to watch as he works his way through. We've seen him have great sprint race results even when he starts in the back. Still waiting for driver in the 3rd position to get up there. Oh, Boutellard, that's why he's missing. There's that empty spot from David. Gather at the chickens, take cover on the cows. The horses are out of the barn. Thomas Edward indeed is going to start on the pole position. And he goes to the inside trying to fend off David Santana. There's some banking there for Santana if he wants it, but he can't get it done. Edward fends him off. In 3rd, it's Barbie. Rolling Thunder, Evan Emre in 4th position, but I think he's going to lose that spot to Urkel Lindstrom. No, he doesn't.
Yeah, Lindstrom's on the wrong side for Hugenholtz. You can see how much they're getting checked up. Oh, we got a little bit of wheel banging, and one car around. That's Alexei Sorokin.
They were 3 wide. Wasn't enough room. Sorokin gets the worst of it.
Yep, and that's just the start of this chaos that I expect. Morris trying to come his way forward. He's in a little bit of a tussle with Patrick Kessler, who's already getting by him. This guy's got to really tiptoe, especially guys like Kessler and Osterkamp, who are still well down the order, Bill.
First big name I see is Nolan, who is up to 9th. But there really is chaos behind him. Reed back in there with Charlie Summers. Summers now making a move on the inside of Reed. He gets that pass made. He's up to 12th. The front is well behaved.
Yeah, you always got to be careful heading into the Hans Ernst chicane there when you try and make that pass. You got to have a little bit of cooperation to get done. Oh, Thomas Edwards is off. Our leader lost it coming through Lyondike, Bill, just a wheel in the grass.
Well, he didn't cause any trouble. He led for 3/4 of the lap. Wasn't able to get to the start-finish line to get credit for leading lap number 1.
I'm going to try and watch the replay on this.
Oh, yeah, this guy, the left side's up on the curb.
And you could see when the rear of the car started bouncing like that, there was really no saving it. These cars ride so low to the ground, and as soon as they bottom out, you're almost guaranteed to lose control. I tell you what, the battle for the lead is looking like Emre might be a good one to pick for the win today.
Evan Emre really prides himself on being a great sprint racer. He thinks that, boy, if he can get up front, He knows how to do this. And right now he's working on the back of Santana. And right behind him, chasing yet another car, Loic Barbie.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Barbie could do if he could get himself into some clear air as well. But Santana's doing a pretty good job of fending off Emre. I thought maybe he would have a chance. But then Emre backed off. You can see he's got a nice little gap. The real question will be the front stretch when they hit there.
The good news for Santana and Emre and Barbie, they run in podium position. The bad news is Kerry Nolden, that's a big name, has worked his way up to 6th. Look at 8th position. This is Ali Hay. Daniel Morris is up in 7th. Hay, Milne back here.
Those guys have been racing with each other in the feature, so they already know how this tends to play out. Hayes got a great run on Morris, but he's going to have to go the long way around. Let's see if he can use that banking like we've seen some drivers do. Wow.
He does. Wow.
Power move from Hay.
Well, that was going on. Well, that was going on. Nolden got around Connor Ryan. Nolden up to 5th now and within shouting distance of the leader. Erka Lindstrom next on the Kerry Nolden hit list.
He may have had that bad start to the last race, but I think he's trying to make up for it. I think he's aiming for the win here. And that's almost what he has to do, Bill, because he lost a lot of points to Oosterkamp, the guy ahead of him in the championship right now. So at this point, Nolden really has to start taking the risks with only 3 races left after this one.
Look at Lindstrom looking back at Nolden. My goodness, the fighting going back in about 10th position is something else.
Erka's going to make this look easy, I think, right here. Or, excuse me, Nolden's going to make it look easy.
Yeah, he gets him.
Or does he? He's got to finish the job still. Wow, great job by Erka. Now it's a done deal.
That's Connor Ryan now looking back behind. So Nolden gets around Lindstrom. He's got a little bit of a ways to get up to the front 3, who continue to race in order.
Well, and now Erka comes back at him. He got a great little bit of slipstream.
And a pass for the lead as Emre dives it in deep into Tarzan and takes it over from Santana.
It took a while, but now is when Evan really has to turn up the wick. He's got to pump out some good, consistent laps because it seems like he's just slightly faster than David, but he needs that gap because the quicker that Kerry Nolden gets past Barbie and Santana, the quicker it's going to be for him to catch and pass Emre.
It is impossible to tell the race story without jumping you around, viewers. Ali Hay gets together with Charlie Summers as we speak.
Oh, and Summers comes out the worst of it. Usually in Shivlock, you don't hit the inside wall. You fly up into that embankment on the outside. I'm kind of shocked that he managed to find the metal there.
Hay took a peek on Ryan. That's Connor Ryan on the in the multicolored car. He couldn't finish the pass, and then Charlie Summers gets in. They touch.
I said it before. These cars do not behave well when they touch tire to tire. Open wheel cars are not meant to bang doors like sports cars and stock cars.
Now we'll go back up front. Once Emre got around Santana, he's opened up a little bit of a gap. Loic Barbie has had just about enough of David Santana as he moves to the inside. Let's see if he can finish this going into Tarzan. Watching the whole thing is Nolden.
And it's helping Nolden because it's cutting an even bigger hole in the air for him. So not only are they holding each other up in the corners, but they're helping him on the straights, and he tries it through Tarzan, but just can't seal the deal.
So we actually saw Barbie make a pass. He goes up into 2nd. Santana, Nolden, Lindstrom hanging on in 5th.
There's still a lot of racing left to go. This does not bode well for the 147 of Emre. Because I don't think it's going to... I don't think it's going to take very long for Nolden to get by these guys. They might put up a fight, but even if they do, I say 3-4 laps max before he gets through.
Right now, Kerry Nolden, the jaywalking mailman there, trying to get around Santana if he can. Summers, after that contact with Ali Hay, has decided to bring it into the pit lane.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to mention. Oh, here we go. Santana already under threat, but he covers off the inside. Nice. Oh, and they touch again. Ooh, they're starting to roll the dice here. Eventually, somebody's going to lose. And I said before, Nolden's got to do that. He's got to be a little bit risky. That's got to be a needed risk. I don't know about this.
Well, right now, David Santana, his biggest fan is Evan Emre, who's starting to roll away. As long as Santana can keep Nolden from getting around, it helps Emre's odds of getting to the checker flag first.
And what Nolden really doesn't want here is Erka Lindstrom closing right back in on it. He could be even more of a headache. Emre now about a second and a half up, which isn't a big enough gap. He really needs to be about 5 seconds ahead, I think, if he wants to have any sort of chance at this win.
I'll just report, Reed got around Ali Hay, Reed up into 7th. You may want to ask about how about those SimRC guys? How are they doing? Kessler in 10th, Osterkamp in 11th.
Yeah, and they're just picking their way through one by one, trying to play patient. Milne should be relatively easy pickings.
Milne in 9th, as those two Swiss cheese cars behind.
Ooh, a big mistake from one of the cars ahead of him. That was Phil Reed. Oh no, and who was that spinning off? That was Milne himself.
Yep. A little bit of right on the ball.
It's cool under the replay.
Well, Kessler almost that's happened.
Continue to try to hold off Nolden. Back Santana. He's got a bit of a gap a little for now. Erka Lindstrom not falling back either. David Santana and he are still right on the gearbox of Kerry. Apologies for the technical issues. Looks like we got it sorted out now. And oh, we got a big accident. We got a big accident, and our winners of the feature race squeezed through. Kessler and Osterkamp, I think, managed not to hit anything.
Phil Reed and Connor Ryan get together.
Ryan comes out the worst of it. Let's look at how many cars just go on by. This is the bad thing about the sprint races, is any sort of mistake, you pay big because of how the cars accordion together instead of spreading apart as the race goes on.
Kessler and Osterkamp do a great job diving to the inside, avoiding the contact. Emre still out in front, Barbie. Nolden has got around David Santana.
Oh, and that was Erka Lindstrom we saw on screen.
Yep.
Getting by Santana, and now Patrick Kessler and Renee Osterkamp gaining. Also, Kerry Nolden was a second and a half behind about a lap ago. It is now 6/10, Bill. He is flying.
13 and a half minutes of racing to go. Emre, Barbie is the cushion between Nolden and the leader.
What impresses me is that Emre, who was pulling away, Loic has actually reeled him back in. So Loic seems to have found some pace. That or Evan made a mistake somewhere that we missed. I'm not sure which it is.
Well, he better keep that pace up because he's got Kerry Nolden behind him.
I'm not sure how long he'll be behind him. It took longer than I expected for Kerry to get by the first of those guys. And, oh, we got a pass for position behind them. Erk Lindstrom with a big mistake, and Hans Ernst chicane, and David Santana is going to run side by side into Kumho. And look at, oh, this is bad news for them because that's Kessler and Osterkamp. Oh, are we going to see some 3 wide down the front stretch? This is about to get spicy.
They got their team channels working. Kessler's going to look to the inside. He gets 1. Santana leaves him room. Renault does not get through.
So Osterkamp, and remember, Osterkamp is... Ooh, go ahead.
Nolden was able to get around Barbie while that was going on. So now Nolden is up to second.
And I was going to say, remember, Osterkamp's main concern is try to limit the number of cars between himself and Nolden, because he outscored Nolden by quite a bit. And with the gaps between positions on points being much smaller in this race, all he really has to do is get within about 2, maybe even 1 car between them, and Nolden won't make up much of the ground that Osterkamp gained there in the feature race.
We are on the exciting part of the track right now. This battle going on as they come up behind Lindstrom, and Kessler now is up in the 50s. He's got Lindstrom to deal with. Osterkamp still back there trying to get around Santana, and Phil Reed right on his gearbox.
Lindstrom's trying to make that car as wide as possible, and he actually makes the corner. I thought for sure he was going to be braking too hard, so he holds him back for now, but I think this pit straight is going to make it just like a sitting duck for Erka Lindstrom, because Kessler is well within the slipstream.
Pass for the lead. I think Kerry Knowles is about to get it going down into Tarzan. He's a good run out of Iron Lyondike. And sure enough, new leader, Kerry Nolden. Took him 9 minutes and 15 seconds to get it done.
Yeah, and from here, he just really needs to worry about what he's doing. I don't think Osterkamp's got enough to clear these guys and try to chase him down. Actually, boy, Osterkamp's got quite a battle behind him. Oh, and there's contact! That's Santana and Phil Reed.
Reed's had a busy day.
Ali Hay also gets caught up in the mess. Boy, what a miserable day for poor Ali. That 09 could have had a little bit of a decent finish, but he slots down to 14th because of that contact that he made.
That poor Ali Hay was behind it and just couldn't decide where to go, and then he lost the car trying to take evasive action.
And it's understandable. I mentioned it during the feature that it's a crest right there. The car's already unsettled. It's blind. The UK&I driver just found himself at a bad place at a bad time.
So now the front 3 are settling down, and Patrick Kessler has cleared the chaos that is behind him. Kessler, with just under 10 minutes to go, certainly has legitimate chances at a podium. The gap only 2.3 seconds. He'll have to hustle, but he can get there.
Well, I kind of wonder, though, if Renault manages to get by Erker pretty quickly and catch Patrick, does Patrick maybe pull off and let him through? Because Patrick's not in the top 5 in the points. He's really not in the championship hunt, whereas Renault is fighting for it. And
you can see Renault ducking to the inside there. Osterkamp, I think it's going to get Lindstrom put away. I keep saying that, but Tarzan can fool you. Yep. Osterkamp up to 5th.
About a second to make up to get up to Patrick, which is not unheard of for him to regain that ground in 9 minutes.
Guys, remember when we started this race, I said, keep an eye on Josh Ladd. He's an 8th.
Yeah,
started last.
23rd. Wow, what a recovery for Josh. Keep your nose clean, keep it pointed forward, and keep the rubber on the pavement.
Just ahead of them is a battle. Phil Reed is going to be able to get around Erka Lindstrom, and there you see Reed finishing the pass there.
Poor Erka. He started this thing in 6th. He's currently down to 7th, so he's only lost 1 position. But you think about, he was on the podium before. He was probably thinking it was so close. Taking a look at 9th place, Lubomir and Tessier. He's heading back onto the front stretch once again. This is the part of the sprint race that these guys tend to like, Bill, is everybody's spreading apart a little bit. It's a lot less of just a mess everywhere you go. You can focus on passing one car, as it looks like we're going to see right there. So move Tessier ahead of Morris now.
Exactly, Joe. Once it gets strung out there, you can start doing things the way they're supposed to be. You don't have to be quite so frantic about it. The nice train, though, back there. 10th, Tessier, Morris, Tom Van Hoyman in 12th, and Knut Martinsen in points. Back there, 13th, last car in line.
We might want to watch second place. Remember, Loic was gaining bit by bit on Evan. Well, ever since they got passed by Nolden, that hasn't changed, Bill. He's still really hunting him. And from what we saw with Loic's bad finish, I think he's going to be pretty hungry to try and get himself up to second in this race, because that's probably the best he'll be able to do now that Nolden's by.
Yeah, well, the Swiss cheese is getting bigger in Barbie's mirror right now, because Kessler, remember that thing was about 2.3 seconds when I said he had a chance for a podium? Well, now it's down under a second. Barbie would really like to get this pass made on Emre.
Oh, and to make bad news worse, in this case, the cheese does not stand alone, because Kessler also has Oosterkamp gaining.
Spare me. Jeez. All right, Barbie. Look at Emre weaving back and forth here for a second. Loic going to try the outside. Nope.
And that opens up that inside line for Kessler. He's not close enough to take advantage. That next time through, Barbie's really got to watch his mirrors.
Boy, you really do. It's tough when you're in Barbie's position. I've made this mistake where you're focusing on the guy ahead. You pull out to make the pass. You didn't realize that the guy behind you has pulled alongside you at the same time.
Yeah, well, and that also means that Patrick Kessler has to watch out, because if Loic is focusing so much on trying to pass Emre, he could chop down, not hearing his spotter in time, and run into Kessler. So Kessler's got to fight this with a smart head on his shoulders.
All this going on 3 seconds behind Kerry Nolden, but this is the fun one to watch right now. We're going to stay up here as we ride on board with Patrick Kessler, the defending champion. And he's going to go to the inside.
Wow, not even a defense this time. Makes it look easy. So Emre up next. The gap from Kessler up to Nolden is about 4 seconds. Nolden's pretty fast. I'm not sure that he's going to be able to close that down in time.
Joe, I just get a different feeling from the way that the SimRC guys, and I'm talking about Kessler and Oosterkamp, the way they handle these sprint races, they take their time. They're not the fastest. They don't make up a lot of ground lap 1, 2, or 3. Once things settle down, they start picking them off. And here they are.
Yeah, that's exactly the difference, Bill. It is, these guys have been in the series. That's why they're both champions at this point, is they know how the game works. They know how it tends to play out. Sometimes you can't control everything. You're going to have bad races. But over the course of a season, that's what matters. And they know that over the course of the season, if you play this safe strategy on the sprint races, you're going to wind up with more good finishes than you are bad.
Right on board with Oosterkamp. We were there just ahead of him. That is Loic Barbie, who has really been the star of this broadcast. He's really had a lot of screen time.
Hopefully he comes in so he can tell us if we're saying his name right or wrong.
Absolutely. Oh, I think Kessler maybe has a look here on Emre if he wants to force it.
Gonna get a double overtake possibly even. Nope, he's not gonna force it. Again, look at that smart racing. He knew that he wasn't fully alongside. He knew it's the end of the race. So Emre's going to fight hard. And we've seen this from Emre. When it comes to the end, that's when he starts to turn it up and say, all right, I got a podium on my hands. You're going to have to take this from my, well, not cold dead hands, but certainly my racing gloves.
Watch Evan take a defensive line here. He's going to work his way all the way over to driver right. Put on the reggae music, Patrick Kessler. If you want to pass me, you're going to have to do it high, and that's how you do it.
But Emre's starting to blink a little bit. That is the worst-case scenario for Kessler. Now he gets it done. Oh, but is that Oosterkamp losing a position? Phil Reed has got him. Oh, no. Oosterkamp He wants to try and gain as many spots as he can, and right now, it might be the reverse situation.
And remember, Reed is the teammate of Kerry Nolan. I built it up in the pre. Oh, they touch! And he turns him. And now Reed is on his hood.
And 2 cars go by. That's Ladd and Lindstrom. 3, 4. Oh, Osterkamp's going to be steaming after that one. There goes all his hard work. Kerry Nolan could actually potentially hold his ground on points. That's a lot of positions lost. Bill, the racing gods, they are fickle.
It's funny. Osterkamp has no trouble getting through the back markers when he was racing with a peer, if I can put it that way, with a rival. They get together.
And you know, I really don't put that one on Osterkamp. I don't think he did anything wrong. I think Reed made an aggressive move, and unfortunately, it hurt both of them as we watch this battle for second. Or excuse me, third, actually. Poor Loic can't really do anything with Emre with the way that his connection is going.
Yeah, that does make it hard.
Our viewers new to SimRacing who don't quite understand what's going on, Emre, the car that you're seeing blinking, has a bad internet connection, so the sim can't always tell where he is. That's why he's disappearing. But the unfortunate thing is that means that Loic doesn't always know where he is, which is why it's hard for him to pass, because if he tries to go by, that car could reappear sort of stuck in the middle of him, and both of them could go flying off the course.
Let's leave that little battle there. Let's go back to 6. Urka Lindstrom being under attack by Lubomir Morris. And the French driver, Alain Tessier, in there as well.
Stick his nose down the inside, but out of Vodafone, that inside line just isn't going to offer enough grip. I think our leader might be getting the checkers here. It's going to be awful close.
Coming around, there is 9 seconds to go. And he's going to cross the line with just about a second left on the clock. So one more circuit for Kerry Nolan. Oh, look at this battle for third, Joe. Boy, it's hard to watch it with Emre blinking as much as he is. We got to make sure we stay on Barbie.
If I was Loic, I wouldn't be too happy about this because, Bill, it's considered
impossible. Yeah.
It's considered good manners, I guess, in sim racing that if you are blinking and someone tells you that you not necessarily concede the position, but you don't fight it too hard. And we saw him really defending. Because you're basically a hazard on the track at that point.
Looking at that 3-car battle, the car that you just saw go by in front of you, that was Josh Ladd. He's up to 5th position. Yes, Josh, I know it's impossible that you could go through 18 positions, didn't get a lot of screen time. He just did it so cleanly.
I'm sure he'll be happy to not have screen time the way that GSRC goes. Yeah. Our leader going through the final left-hander now, just has the 2 right-handers to go. Kerry Nolan came from 13th. Got up to 8th pretty quick, then picked them off one at a time. Out of the final corner. He sits 2nd in the points. Best of day will be interesting. But Kerry Nolan wins the sprint race. Patrick Kessler gets 2nd. Emre with Barbie. Barbie's going to run out of track. Yes. Emre gets 3rd. Barbie has to settle for 4th. Josh Ladd. Woohoo, Josh. Laddie. 5th position. Half a tenth between Emre and Barbie to decide the last step on the podium. In fact, a lot of close battles at the end. If you look at Morris, Lindstrom, and Tessier, there was 3 tenths between those 3 cars.
Connor Ryan still finishing up his lap. He'll finish 16th. He'll earn a point for that. Charlie Summers going to finish on the lead lap, but out of the points. All right, the racing is over here in the Netherlands, but our broadcast is far from done. Don't go far. We'll be back to run down the entire finishing order, talk to some of the drivers before we put a lock on the gate. Back in a few. Welcome back to the Global Sim Racing Channel's coverage of AOR's Formula Renault 2.0 Season 11 Championship. It's round 9 from the dunes here at Zandvoort. All right, the feature races in the books, and now the sprint races in the books. Let's give you the rundown of the ladder right now. Kerry Nolden is your winner, coming from 13th to 1st. He finishes ahead of Patrick Kessler. Evan Imre started in 5th position. He'll come home in 3rd. Good for him. Loic Barbie started in 4th, finishes in the same spot. Josh Ladd didn't get a lot of screen time. 23rd to 5th. Well done. Back after your top 10, Lubomir Morris, Urka Lindstrom, Alain Tessier. Rene Osterkamp was working his way up onto a podium, ran into trouble with Phil Reed. He'll have to settle for 9th. Tom Van Hoyman rounds out your top 10. Joe?
Daniel Morris gets 11th, with Kmart finishing in 12th. And I was off by 2 on my prediction. Ellie Hay finished 13th. Phil Reed gets the 14th spot. David Santana started on the front row and, well, came home all the way in 15th. Connor Ryan gets 16th, with Charlie Summers, ironically, finishing exactly where he started, 17th position. Stuart Milne was a DNF, the first of our DNFs, in 18th. Marcus Deck behind him in 19th. Thomas Edwards, 20th. Lexi Sorokin, 21st. Christopher Rigby, 22nd. And David Boudelar, 23rd. Bill?
Okay. For interviews here, it looks like we have Tom Van Hoyman, who came home in 10th position here in the sprint race. Tom, nice sprint race finish for you, but I really want to talk about the feature because I thought that was fun. There was some great racing going on between you and I guess Barbie and Milne and Hay. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. Sorry, I got my microphone muted. I don't know why, but yeah, it was really fun. I think the key was to overtake them was my consistency in the future race. I got every lap in the 33.4356. So I was really consistent lap after lap. And I decided to go through because together, I believe, they were side by side, so I thought, all right, I'm going and try to do the overcut, and yeah, it worked out. I got really good pace, but it was for some moments it was quite scary because Loic was really on my tail, and I was on the tail of two. Got away a little bit, 1 second, and then I was like, oh, Loic is going to overtake me, but the last corner is the key to get not to get overtaken, you know, because you need a very, very good exit to stay in front, and every lap I nailed that, so that's the reason I stayed in front. And then they pitted, so there was a little bit excitement off my shoulders because I was sweating at that time. It was really intense to keep him behind, even with Fiori. Oh, I was tired, and but yeah, the key to overtake them was consistency in my stint, and a P8 and a P10. That's the first time double top 10. So I'm really, really happy.
The sprint race was a little more hectic. Did you have to take any evasive action there to some of those crashes, or did they clear out by the time you got to them?
Some of the accidents were cleared out before I get there, but nearly at the last lap I saw René crash. He was coming back in the track and to the track, and he left some space, but track different if you see that. So my corner wasn't that good, so that was a little bit hectic, but everything went okay. Yeah, I'm really happy with my P10, but it could have been more, I think, because in the first lap I got on the grass a couple lap later again, and I nearly spun, just saved the car. Maybe a P9 or P8 again, but yeah, I'm really happy with P10.
Well, congratulations on a good points day. Good luck the rest of the way. And that was Tom Van Hooyman. Happy with his day, I think, Joe.
Yep, even happier with this second sprint race is probably Kerry Nolden, who won in that, but it wasn't the case in the first one. Kerry, did that really incentivize you, that first race, to have to go out and go all or nothing and take the win? Because you're chasing Oosterkamp, who won that feature.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to close that gap anyway. So expectations were, I think, right now is on Phil. So I think the fight for second's a bit more interesting. But yeah, the feature race went a bit bad. I got a penalty for an unsafe pit entry. Went in a bit too late, so had to have 15 seconds waiting in the box. So, but yeah, it set me up okay. I wasn't really seventh, isn't a million miles away from the front really. So I was still quite far back in the sprint, and yeah, it was just picking people off one by one, and I think lap one was a bit messy, and could have gone a bit better, but I was just picking a lane and just kind of committing to it, and I think there was an accident. Luckily it wasn't as major as it could have been at that corner, so I was lucky to survive that. And yeah, it was just good racing all the way through the field. I think it seemed quite measured, and everyone was pretty clean from lap one onwards really. So yeah, it was good, and to get a win as well. I've not had a win for a long time, so yeah, very pleased just to get the win really.
Does it change how you race, the way you finish in those feature races, or do you always take the same approach going into the sprint?
I think with the sprint you always have to leave a little bit on the table, and especially on a track like this where there's only one real passing opportunity, you have to be a bit more measured in the sprint for sure. But in the feature, it was so hard to stick with someone anyway. I think I was catching up with Lubomir in the feature, and as soon as I kind of got within range, I just had the front washing out in the middle sector, so I couldn't keep with him. So I was trying to be flat out in the feature race as well, but yeah, like I say, yeah, you have to be a bit more measured in the sprint. But I'm probably not the best person to say that, considering I was the first one at the scene of the accident in that one. But yeah, there are two different approaches you have to take, really, for sure.
So you say you're not really focused on or don't at least think that you can easily catch up to Oosterkamp. Does that mean that you're maybe playing more of defense for the remainder of the season, considering Reed and Morris going in were pretty close behind in points?
I think all season we've taken a kind of underdog approach. Anyway, I think for any of us to kind of get ahead of any of the SimRC guys is kind of a bit of a win really for us. So yeah, every race I've been lucky to finish second quite a few times, so I've managed to kind of split one of them at some point. But obviously Rene's super consistent every race, so it's almost impossible really to kind of match that. But yeah, I'm just happy to be up where I'm at really. I think I've not been this high up in the championship for quite a few seasons now, so I think my approach is just, let's see if we can snatch a few more race wins before the end of the season.
All right. Well, we'll watch out for that. Best of luck next week, and we'll talk to you again.
No worries. Cheers, guys.
It's Kerry Nolden, Bill, and I believe you have one more.
Always a good interview. Evan Emre. To be honest with me now, Evan, when you were out in front starting to distance yourself from the field there in that sprint race, did you think, I got a chance at the win?
You know, about 5 or 6 laps into that race, with the way the race was going, I actually did think I might have a chance of winning my first ever race in the series. But no, not to be. When Kerry got past the cars behind, I just had to concede it to my sister teammate, so I just let him through on the straight. But a podium is still pretty good considering the blinking I was having as well, which was probably annoying Loic behind me quite a bit. But a podium is a pretty rare occasion, so I'm pleased with that.
You know, I think you're a great sprint racer. You pride yourself on doing well on these second races, don't you?
Well, you know, it comes with finishing mid-grid in the feature race, and then I'm kind of in top 10 for the next race. And you just have to play it tactically. Who is it? What is? I can't even speak. Who is worth fighting and who isn't? And how do you lose the least amount of time? And I mean, that's why I finish basically every race.
Yep.
It's just picking up the points and being consistent, and that's what I do.
Well, good points day for you. Congratulations. We'll watch you the rest of the way as season 11 draws to its end. Good job.
See you later, Bill.
All right. Evan, the Rolling Thunder Emre. And that's going to do it for us. So let's thank everybody at Apex Online Racing for organizing Formula Renault 2.0 League and to all the members who support the broadcast. Thanks to the companies, equipment, and software that you see on the screen right now that we use to stream cyberspace into your place. The original music comes courtesy of Eric Eckel and June Lalonde. See the screen to how to contact each of them. Formula Renault Season 11 returns in 1 week for round 9. And I don't have it in the script, so where are we going to be? It looks like we're going to be at Detroit. Holy moly. That's going to be exciting. You don't want to miss that one. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, visit globalsimracingchannel.com or check it out at social media, and we got lots of options. How about this? Twitter at GSRC Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to the YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button as well so that you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Finally, on behalf of the crew, Joe, Sean, and Dougie, I'd like to thank all of you for watching. With that said, congratulations to Rene Oosterkamp for winning the feature race and Caroline Nolan for winning the sprint. We're off to have fun, storm the castle. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.